Welcome to today's sixth session of our Journalism at UL Media Matters Autumn Seminar Series. Really happy to welcome Donn O'Sullivan here. Donn is a powerhouse on the local media scene here in Limerick, and increasingly his tentacles are growing nationwide. He's the editor of the Limerick Leader, which is a huge presence here in the city and county. And he combines that with other roles in the iconic media group, which owns more than 20 local papers around the country. He combines this with being a terrific radio and TV commentator for Live 95, Virgin Media, and I think RT as well, Donn. I'm not sure on that.
Yeah.
And I've no idea how he finds the time either, to be honest. He's always been very generous to this department with his time and mentoring of past students, whether on placement or as an employer. So we're really happy to have him here today. And today he's just going to talk about one facet really of his working life, and that is radio commentary. Donn's a terrific and very knowledgeable commentator and has been the point of contact really for many people during what's been something of a golden era in Limerick sport, in particular in the last few years. His commentating stands out for the combination of the knowledge he has, like he does his homework, and the energy and enthusiasm that he brings to every broadcast that he's associated with. There's never a sense with his commentaries, whether GA or rugby, that he's seen it all before, even though more than most of us with the amount of sport he watches, he probably has. So today he's going to tell you about the process of sports commentary, I suppose, just the nuts and bolts of how he prepares and performs and all that goes into that. And we'll have, we should have, about 10 minutes at the end for questions. So, please engage with the Q&A session. So, if you've got questions, take a note of them. Or if it's something important relating to what he's in the middle of talking about, just raise the hand and we'll try and bring you in live, okay? So great to have you here, Donn.
Oh, listen, what an intro. It'll get you to come around with me every week. Thanks, Fergal. Listen, I appreciate everyone coming on the call, number one. Number two, fingers crossed someone will pick up something useful in the next 50 minutes or so. As Fergal said, any stage, throw up the hand, and if not, we can chat at the end. So basically, what I try to do with these presentations is just kind of go through what I do, as Fergal said, but also I would have loved this when I was starting out in radio. You kind of learn as you go along, and everyone has their own ways of doing things, prepping for any gig or any job you're going to go and do, but this is how I do it, and I've picked up a few bits over time, so kind of like a magpie. So I think the first slide there, Fergal, is just a bit of background on my good self. So I put this in. It's not like I'm great or whatever, that's far from it, but it just goes to show how your career can take many roads. I have it there in brackets. So starts off, I'm obviously from Limerick, went to St. Clement's College, which wouldn't have been known as a great sporting bastion compared to other Limerick schools. Did marketing in college, and then moved into the newspaper world with the Limerick Post, and that was in a sales role. So all I keep stressing here is you never know where you're going to end up. You don't even know where you're going to start. So your career will take twists and turns. So basically went from the Limerick Post, then started doing commentary for Live 95. I was actually originally asked just to come on air and talk about sport on the radio. So I know people say, don't do things for free, or, don't do this. If you can get your foot in the door somewhere, I would advise, if you have the time and the wherewithal, to do that. So I went into Live 95, a couple of slots on a Monday morning, a couple of slots on a Friday morning talking about sport. And when they look around the room for someone to do a commentary, you're better off in the room than not in the room. That's one piece of advice I'd give there in terms of career path. If you can put yourself in the position when things come, they'll come to you, essentially. So that's kind of the background of it. Next one then, Ferg. Yeah, so look, straight into it. Pre-commentary. If anyone here is interested in commentary and wants to know, what's the best way to do it, or this is just me. So they say, those that are better than me in it, you'll use 10%, but always have 100% done. So prep as much as you can. Now, if you're doing like I do, Limerick Senior Hurlers, you'll prep at the start of the season and you're only adding on bits. But if I'm doing a game in a couple of weeks' time now for Montpellier versus Leinster, I'll start prepping now. I'll start watching a couple of Montpellier highlights even just to see players' names, pronunciation of players' names. I know everyone on this call, if you've noticed already, my name has two N's, Donn with two N's, and it's misspelled every single day. People call me Donald, call me Don with one N, call me Donald. But the most important thing in the world to any person, and this goes for journalism as well, is their name. You have to get the name right and the pronunciation of it too. Just because there may not be someone in the country or commentating or the county you're commentating on with that name, someone could hear it and it's insulting to pronounce it wrong. So where you can, try and get the pronunciation right. Stats, which I'll show you in a while, if they're not free, try to start building your own. So already this season I would have just put in the Munster teams that have played every game. So you can have them, look back at them, say, look, he played last week, didn't play the week before. Little tips like that. And the big one then, I'll tell you a quick story about this in a second. Arrive before everyone else where possible and prepare for failures. So my last commentary match was Munster versus Connacht, Thomond Park Stadium. Kick-off 7:35. I'm there at 6:30. ISDN line, everything perfect. Checked in with base. At 7:25, the ISDN went down. 10 minutes to kick off. At 7:30, it still wasn't back up. At 7:34, it still wasn't back up. And at 7:34 and 50 seconds, as the player was about to kick off, we managed to get the ISDN line working again. So those things will happen. Don't panic. Last thing you want to do is panic, because that's not going to fix anything. Chill out. You know you've got your stuff done. And if it's technical, it's probably someone else's fault. That's what I always blame the technical guys. You're only there as your voice. And I know the next line there is an interesting one. Fergal, it was fascinating the last time I said, don't eat chocolate before you go on air, live on air, because people can hear it in your voice. I didn't have chocolate before I came on here. But plenty of fluids, eat with enough time. You don't want to be hungry on air. And then be prepared for anything that can happen on air. I know a lot of commentators have some horror stories. I did a match one day, Limerick versus Galway, 2018 in Salt Hill. I can still remember it, where I was Hall Soothers, a jar of honey, trying to pour honey down my throat because I'd lost my voice. Now, obviously, COVID tested now, but I suppose I wanted to do the game. It was a big game, wanted to get it right, but protect the voice. I always have something which, if you have a sore throat, protect it. There's good teas out there, anything like that. If you want to do radio work, your voice is everything. I know there's probably people on this call who've done radio work or want to do radio work. Your voice is very distinctive when you're on air. People will know it's you. So you don't want to be croaky, you don't want to be pitchy. You want to protect that voice. It is, after all, your instrument. It's like you would protect a guitar or whatever you're doing. So the next one then, Fergal. Yeah, so look, this now is this is a complete and utter mess to anyone who's looking at that. But this is just an example, and like I can send them on to Fergal afterwards if you want Fergal the actual screenshots, so they can be bigger. But this is Munster versus the Sharks rugby match. So that in the middle is a screenshot from the Ultimate Rugby app when the teams are named. So you can see the players down the middle. So if I start off on the left-hand side, you've got a situation where I put in the amount of games that player has played for Munster, how many points they've scored, next to their name, their age. The little green dot is to say that they played for Ireland. And then on the inside is the number of caps they have. So people might go, like, that's fairly standard. But what I would give an example there is, if Dave Kilcoyne scores, it's his 110th. If he scored a try, it would be his 110th point for Munster. You know, you can mention that. You can mention this is his 100 whatever, 103rd, 120th, 100 whatever game. A couple of guys who make their debut. You see RG Snyman obviously got injured. It will be his second appearance off the bench. He's 32 times cap for the Springboks. All those little lines just add a little bit of detail. And that's what I'm saying about prepping 100%. You'll only use 10. I don't think I mentioned Chris Cloete has, 54 games or 30 points, but I would need it if he scored. Look out for little things like birthdays. Keith Earls played that night. I think it was his birthday. Look out for milestones. Have they played against the Sharks before? Simon Zebo and Keith Earls, just me spitballing here, but they're within 3 tries of each other for record try scorer. So if Keith Earls does to score a hat-trick, would he go 11 with Simon Zebo? So little things like that. That sheet is in my hand for the match. That's how I commentate. I commentate off that sheet. So Gavin Coombs, Craig Casey, Joey Carberry, you'd know all their names from covering them. But because it's radio, you have the opportunity to look down, take your time, and just spitball through it. Obviously, I would know a lot more about the Munster rugby players than I would about the Sharks. And I'll get to that in a minute about doing radio work or TV work for two teams you don't know, or two high-profile teams. But for the Sharks, again, just some background. A couple of guys have played with South Africa under-20s. There's a guy there, Thomas Dutoit, number 3, had played with Munster. So how many times has he played with Munster? Just a couple of lines like that would keep people's interest during the game. You might not use them all. So just an example of just this scribbles and scrawls of a madman. As you can see there, Rowan Osborne at the end was making his debut. So when he comes off the bench, you immediately say, here comes Rowan Osborne making his debut for Munster. Another line. So on to the next one there, Fergal, please.
It's important to know too, like these principles. Like Donn, there'd be a few people on the call that they'd be news specific. So you know what I mean. I'm always kind of pushing people to kind of attend the sports sessions and the news sessions. But like there would be the equivalent of live news events that you'd be commentating on. I imagine like the technique isn't that dissimilar. You know, in terms of, you know, stuff to fill airtime. I'm thinking kind of a big, whether it's the St. Patrick's Day parades or you know, something like that. I know they're not that common, the kind of live radio commentary news events, but it would be kind of a similar principles, Donn, right?
Absolutely. Or even think, I always say to the lads in the newsroom here in the Limerick Leader, always have someone, it's terribly morbid, but always have someone's obituary in their head. You know, what would people say about them? You know, what are the facts and figures? You know, when Des O'Malley sadly passed away, we had a file of like when he became a minister, you know, what year what cabinets he was in, how many times he was a TD. So on a news job like that, if you're covering someone or going to an event and you're covering someone or you're meeting the mayor, you need to know the facts like I would there of a player. You need to know the facts of the mayor. How long is he a councillor? How long? What party is he with? Was he with any other party? You know, all those kind of little things, as you say, Fergal. It's just getting into that habit of preparing, over preparing, and then you can deliver when the job comes. So then I was explaining earlier about pre-game stats work. So this is something I started to do myself last couple of years. So this is basically Excel or whatever it's called these days, Sheets, is it Google Sheets? So what I did was down the left-hand side, you see a list of all the Limerick hurlers. And then across the screen, you'll see each game that Limerick played in both the league and the championship. So you can see that Nicky Quaid, in first name there, started in 4 of the 5 league games. So what I do with this is I do it on Google Sheets and keep it updated every game. And then I take a screenshot of it and put it onto the iPad, bring the iPad with me to the match. So this is on my iPad and I can just flick between all the screenshots for a particular match. It's a very good tool to have. You often see a lot of news broadcasters will have an iPad in front of them. They'd have little things like this on it. Press releases that get sent to you about the event. Take a quick screenshot so you can read down through it. But again, here you'll notice this is gold for radio commentary. So your co-commentator's chatting away, Nicky Quaid takes a puck out and you can throw in, of course, Nicky has started 4 of the 5 league games, started every one of the championship matches. Sean Finn, a sub against Waterford, Richie English, a sub, you know. Look down to the very end, Barry Murphy comes on in the All-Ireland final against Cork, and as he's coming onto the pitch, I can say this is his second appearance of the season only. He was a sub against Westmeath, haven't seen him since, and now he gets a chance in the final. So that's 2 lines of filler on air that you can just deliver from an Excel spreadsheet, and it takes 2 seconds to fill it out. And the same within the big chunks of green there, you can say that Jeremy Burns, Kyle Hayes, Barry Nash, William O'Donoghue, Dara O'Donovan, Tom Morrissey, they've all started every championship match. They've been the ever-presence. And then you can create a conversation with your co-com. We haven't seen Adrian Breen this season. The strength and depth of this Limerick team is unreal. David Dempsey hasn't played yet. Neither has Darren O'Connell or Brian O'Grady. And also you can keep them for next year. And when he makes his debut, you'll know that Brian O'Grady was on the team last year. He played in the league but didn't play in the championship. So there's loads of detail. And you're creating it yourself. Because the GA stats and figures aren't available for free. So as I mentioned on the first slide, build your own is the easiest thing to do. And you'll know your own little systems. I mean, that looks like some kind of higgledy-piggledy green, white and gold junk there to most of you, I'm sure. But to me, it's easy to read. It's easy to read in the iPad, and it's good conversation points as well. So again, just another quick example here of, for those that are on the call and are very, very interested in sport, you'll be very aware of how important scores are, particularly in Gaelic games, and people are obsessed with them. So you'll see there at the top, David Reedy scored 8 points, 5 from frees against Tip, 8.7 from frees against Galway, and he's a total of 16 points in Seamus Flanagan. So what this allows you to do is create conversation with your co-commentator, but it also allows you to say things like William O'Donoghue playing Tipperary in the championship. Of course, he scored 1 point against them in the league. Or Seamus Flanagan, he loves playing against Tipperary. He scored 4 points against them in the league. Or he might score a goal against Galway in the All-Ireland. You can go, God, he loves scoring goals against Galway. Scored 1 in the league. So it's just every single line there is an opportunity to create dialogue on the field and on the air, along with like the likes of Aaron Gillane and the sheer volume of scores. So everything just keeps feeding back towards something you can say. You have to fill that airtime. That's what radio is about. On TV, you can take time off, take 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds off. You can't on radio. You can't have silence on radio. So you've got to say something. And some games are crap. And there isn't a lot of scores. And this is where this will get you out of an absolute hole if you're stuck. So yeah, look, just again, I created that myself. Rob away if you've any interest in it, even for soccer or whatever sport, rugby, and just see it as a conversation creator for when you're on air. Yeah, again, this is the championship. So the first one was the league, this is the championship. All this is on your iPad. Just keep flicking over and back and you can have a big conversation. I mean, obviously you look at it there, and Gillane has a championship total of 223. I've added that up. That line, that last one there under the black, that's for me for next year. So when Aaron Gillane starts off in the championship next year, I can say, of course, he scored 223 last year, and Cian Lynch scored 13 points, etc., etc. It's all just filler, all just conversation points, and of course, Kyle Hayes with his 2 goals. So again, having it in the bag. Just to give you an example, I know it can be quite boring looking at these slides and looking at these figures. I'll give you an example. My first ever commentary was Limerick versus Antrim in a National Football League. No co-commentator because he didn't turn up. So as I said, don't panic. Went on air, and 2 minutes into the second half, the Antrim centre forward dislocated his elbow. He was on the ground for 11 minutes. Now, anyone that's done radio will know 11 minutes is a long time in radio. And you're on your own and you're chatting, but I had a load of stats done. I just started kind of half reading through it and talking to myself. But all of this is in the background in case something doesn't go right. So just have that in the back of your head. Things can go wrong. Just be ready. I think I said it on the first slide. On to the next one. Yeah, so this is a template I got from doing work with RTE for GA Go. I just thought it was a good template. Again, those that are interested, it's a good template for teams. Obviously, it's lined out the way teams used to line out. But you can put a little bit of detail into these the week of the game, or keep them, because Nicky Quaid isn't going to stop being a teacher overnight. But just goes to show commentary here. Let's pick an example. Kyle Hayes. 2017 debut versus Clare. He's a young player from Kiltime, Palace Kenry. Barry Nash, again, when did he make his debut? What's his occupation? Garrod Hegarty. So I've often said it. There's a commentary, might have it on the end of this, where I mentioned that Richie English plays the ball down into the corner to Pat Ryan from Doon to Doon. They're both from Doon. You have it in the back of your head because you've written it down and you've studied it that week. Again, Cian Lynch, how long is he around? What does he do? Garrod Hegarty, so like if Nicky Quaid pucks the ball out to Garrod Hegarty, teacher to teacher. It's a small little line. I know Micheál Hurtig used to hang his career on it. Just gives the people at home a little bit of an idea as well what these guys are about, what do they do. Seamus Flanagan there's a radiographer, which is a quite interesting job for a senior hurler, and a complete another savage on the pitch to think that on Monday morning then he's going around helping people with some of the most serious illnesses in the world. So it's just a nice little line for people. Again, even if you want to throw in what college they went to, I wouldn't have it there because I can know most of them, but they could have played colleges with people on the team or people that they're facing. For argument's sake, Jason Ford from Tipperary went to UL. Examples like that, he would have heard with a lot of the UL lads on the Limerick team. So small little detail, again, just pure background.
And again, Don, these are habits you'd have as a radio commentator. Like, there's no reason, any beat you're on, print, anything, like you should be building up spreadsheets of detail like that, especially in local journalism where it isn't readily available, or you can't trust Wikipedia. It's like you're building data on scenarios, backgrounds of councillors, notable people, like especially when you have a beat or you have an interest. I think again these are good principles, and it's like careful journalists do it. You know?
Well, just on that, from a news point of view, again, if you've got things like a common agricultural policy, for instance, in farming or wherever, and it changes an awful lot, it's good just to have a few notes from each time something changes. The budget, for example, you know, the budget comes out every year, you know, and you're particularly passionate about certain facet of that. You know, in 2018, this happened. Of course, in 2019, that was reversed. In 2020, this happened, or the rate changed from. Always happen, because it's a couple of lines that might pad out a story for you, might add more detail, might create understanding. That's what the process of a journalist is, to create understanding. You want to make sure that the person reading your story understands it. And if someone is listening into a match at any one time, they better know exactly who's playing and what the score is and how long's left. That's my job, you know. So yeah, same principles, definitely. Just on to the next one, sir. Yeah, I'll just give you an example. So this is Limerick GA. I'm creating it all. This is the Rugby World Cup, England versus New Zealand, and they give you everything. They actually give you too much. You can see it there, Fergal, on that one, and on the next one again. I can send all these on to you, but like, for anyone that's interested in sport, or, you know, like for argument's sake, there's Cian Healy now. Look at the detail that they give you on Cian Healy. You know, it's his third Rugby World Cup. So like when Cian Healy carries the ball in a match, you'll often hear the commentator go, you know, what a veteran. It's his third World Cup, and he makes huge portraits of the Irish rugby team, including Brian Paul. He's a painter, and you're going, God, this guy's detail is unbelievable. He's an amazing commentator. No, he's not. He's not. He's not an amazing commentator. He's got an amazing research team. The start of each match, I think I have mentioned later, but if not, I'll mention it here. The start of each rugby match on television, if anyone's a rugby fan, the Champions Cup, it's all scripted. So I have a script, right? And I'll say home team for 30 seconds, away team for 30 seconds, subs, and then the referee. For Champions League matches, I see a Liverpool jersey there among the lads. For a Champions League match, you'll notice that they'll do the home team, and then they'll go to the referees for the coin toss, and the captain swap their pennants, and he talks about the ref, and then they'll go to the away team, and it's all scripted. There's no one there doing anything ad lib. He's got the 4 changes from last week. This is the team. This is the 5th appearance by Virgil van Dijk against, you know, Real Madrid. This is the 7th time he's played at that ground. And you're going, God, Martin Tyler's amazing. He's not. He's just got great stats. So that's just to give you an example of the difference between what's given to you at the high level and what you have to prepare at local level. So when you all get your high-power jobs in RT or CNN or whatever, and Fergal, they'll have all that provided to them. On to the next couple there. Same again. Look at the detail for 2 players. So the one after that then. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So again, set the scene, right? This is during commentary. So semi-final, final, first week of the season. Just again, for all radio stuff, where are you? What are you doing? This is your who, what, why, where, and when. So, you know, when they throw over to you, you can welcome everyone to Croke Park, welcome everyone to Thurles for the semi-final of, for the final of, for the first round of. Again, scripted if necessary, if you feel calmer scripting it. I script an awful lot of my intros, and I use bullet points. I don't script it because, you know yourself, if you're trying to read something and you might spot an error or it doesn't flow properly, or I just bullet point it and go as I want. So that's a good tip I got from another commentator before, just to bullet point it. And if time is running out and the players are coming out in the picture, the graphics are changing on the screen, leave out the last 2 bullet points, you know. So just give yourself some chance. Player ID. So this is a question I get asked an awful lot. How do you know the hurlers one from the other? So basically, obviously numbers on their back are great, but sure, you know, Declan Hannon looks exactly the same as Jimmer Burns. Both have black helmets. So basically, you try and pick out something that makes them different. So player ID for radio or TV is key. So boots, in hurling, the colour of their grip. In rugby, have they a scrum cap? Have they got their arm or their wrist strapped, like Conor Murray? Just little things, and say them on air. But don't be afraid to say it. And if anyone on this has been unfortunate to hear me commentate, you'll know that I'll often say very early on, Aaron Gillan with his white helmet and white boots with the yellow grip on the hurley. So I'm saying that so I'll remember them, and people can visualize him. And then you can talk about white helmet later on, or, you know, the ball goes in and he's in, you know, Seamus Flanagan and Tom Morrissey both have yellow helmets. William O'Donoghue has a green one. You know, little things that I remember now months later, you just remember from doing them. Time at every score, time as much as you can. So I don't know if people here listen to matches on the radio. The most frustrating thing in the world is to turn on a radio and hear someone going bananas, and you're like, okay, like, how long is left? What's the score? What are we doing? So every time there's a score, and this goes for hurling in particular, every time there's a score, say the score. So Aaron Glan, what a point. 222 to 221. Limerick by a point. 222 to 222, they're level. Limerick now 5 behind. It gives a picture. Stay with us, they're only 2 behind. There's 5 minutes to go. Set the scene again. Always give the score and the time. Co-commentators can be great, can be bad, can be a very bad reflection on you, can shout over you, can get excited. You have to stay on your job. Just remain focused. This is the one thing I would always say. A commentator is there to draw the lines. The co-commentator colours it in. So you might know more about the game than some co-commentators. Don't belittle them. You might have a bit of crack with them. I always try and do, but tell the story as you see it. Let them fill it in. That's the big one. And in terms of stings and sponsors, some radio stations are big on this. I have to mention sponsors twice in the first half, twice in the second half. So I just put it down on my sheet, take it off. And the same with the final wrap. You can script that if you want. Now, just on that one for the final wrap, if some of you might get a job or an early job in radio where you're doing a county football final in County Longford and a team wins, if you don't know, like, is this their first ever county title? Is it 50 years since they won one? Is it their first year up from senior? Is it their 10th in a row? Is it their first one in football? They've won 45 in hurling. Just have the context of what the win is, or the draw, or the loss. So, of course, if both teams draw today, there's a replay next Sunday. If they lose, they're relegated. You don't want to finish it on radio by going, yeah, it was a great all game, 112 to 111, talk to you all next week, and some poor parish has had their senior hurling team relegated, or a team has won their county title for the first time in their history, or since they got amalgamated, and it's a big deal, and you're like monosyllabic. You're like, oh yeah, just great, good luck, back to base. So have the context of what you're watching ready to go for the last couple of moments, if that makes sense. Yeah, again, keep score, keep telling them. So the other one then is you saw the kind of Rugby World Cup or the scripted notes that you have. Highlight them as you go. Just mark off the ones you've said already. You don't want to be too repetitive. You don't want to keep saying Cian Healy paints pictures of Paul O'Connell or Cian Healy's 3rd World Cup, because people are like, I know it's Cian Healy's 3rd World Cup. You said it 5 minutes ago. So just cross them off. You've done them. You're out. And just, you have them written down. You've gone through them. You know them. You've said them. Thanks very much. And the next two then or the next one is the biggest one for me, right? Like, going to a match is brilliant. I love sport, love going to matches. But going to matches and doing a commentary, some people maybe on this call or whatever, you might go, oh God, people are listening to me, or what will I say? Like, just relax. You're there. Someone has asked you to do a job because they think you're good enough to do it. Enjoy it. Have fun. Breathe. I personally love American sport, and the way they deliver sport is relaxed. It's enjoyable. They have a bit of fun. Don't be too, stoic or uptight about things. Let it breathe. Enjoy it. You will make mistakes. Just keep going. Keep the foot down. Don't worry about it. Everyone if you're doing a hurling match, there's 30 players, there's a ref. They're all making mistakes. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to get someone's name wrong. Who knows? It's on the radio. Just relax. Keep going. Keep moving. And if you make a mistake, so what? And then once you get into the vibe of it, step and repeat. Just get ready for next week. So if Limerick are playing Cork this week, you've done your prep. Match over. Go back. Get ready for Limerick and Tipperary the following week. Just, again, have fun. Arrive on time, etc., etc. Right, Fergus, so just before you go on to that one, these are going to be some examples of commentary, and then we've got a couple of minutes. I'll talk you through the commentaries just to explain how they came about, why they sound different, and just, I suppose, let them play away there for Fergus and I'll explain. So I think the first one is a rugby one.
Nice and tidy, well drilled so far. Back in towards Dylan Richardson. Now Chamberlain. And Kerwin Bosch thought about the offload as well, trying to pop it off there towards Simon Zebo. Picks it up and it's the foot race. That's Simon Zebo on the way. A lot of money on Simon Zebo being the first try scorer. And he is the first try scorer. Oh, the dream return for Zebo. Munster 5 in front. And just like that, An X-Factor moment from an X-Factor score, and Jason Ford with his third free in a row, his 10th point of that first half. 2:16 to 12 points it finishes, and you can hear the Tipperary fans, and they're right to be delighted. The Limerick fans aren't happy with Paul O'Dwyer as he goes off the field, but Tipperary won't matter with that. Shane, your initial thoughts? 2:16 to 12.
Yeah, listen, sorry, Dan, I'm just waiting to see if anyone does with the Paul O'Dwyer there, just to tell him sharpen up, but it doesn't look like they're going to.
Is beaten one, steps past the second, bounces the ball. He's gone! He's still going. He's going. 14. Once more. He's turned. The best goal you'll ever see. 2:22 to 2:17. You will not see a better goal from Kyle Hayes. Incredible skill. He bounced it 3 or 4 times and rattled the back of the net. Limerick in front by 5.
No, it's unbelievable. He started on his own 65. That was an unbelievable goal, Dan. He ran the whole way. His gears are there. And you know what? Consider the week that was in it and the day that was in it. It's only fit right to that man has got up and stuck the ball in the back of the net.
Okay. So just obviously, as you can hear, they're all different types. So the first one is a commentary on Simon Zebo coming back to Munster this season. But there's 6 levels. They say there's 6 levels on your voice when you're doing commentary. So me talking to you here now is kind of level 1. Me going bananas. Well, I didn't go bananas. Shane Dowling went bananas for Kyle Hayes. That's level 6. That's like breaking equipment kind of pitch. So in between is where you want to live. So like 1 is your intro, 6 is the greatest goal I've ever seen in a hurling match. So just give you an example of that. So for Simon Zebo commentary, you could hear on radio. This is why radio is so brilliant for me. Like radio is in the background. You're driving the car, you're in the kitchen cooking, you're out in the back garden cutting the grass, whatever. And the match is just flowing. It's like, oh God, you're going offload, try to this, try to that. And then boom, the crowd bristled first. I don't know if you noticed that. The crowd bristled. Simon Zebo had it and he's gone. Now, I have to describe that while the crowd are going bananas. So I have to try and explain to people what's just happened. So Simon Zebo intercepted it. He's away towards the try line. And then you're painting a picture. This is a big moment for Munster, for Simon. He's just back from Racing 92. A lot of people were like, first try scorer, surely, you know, big moment. And boom. Now, you'll hear a delay at the end because he sidesteps a guy. And I have to say, there was a lot of money on Simon Zebo being the first try scorer. And he is the first try scorer as he eventually scores. So you got an idea there of how mundane the match was. And then boom, Simon Zebo does something. And the pitch of the voice goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The second one on the hurling is arguably the greatest goal I've ever seen in my life. But it comes about from halftime. Just before halftime, we were talking there about the score. Limerick were 10 points down. Very maudlin, very morbid, but very matter of fact. Asking Shane Dowling, what did he think? He then gets distracted by something happening with the referee, so you need to be ready to come back in. So that's just an example of that. And then 10 minutes later, Kyle Hayes heads up off the field and Shane starts to go bananas. But if you go back and listen to that again at some other point, or I'll send it on to you, the minute the ball hits the back of the net, the place goes crazy. What's the first thing I say? It's the score, because people are listening in the car, and people have told me, people rang me afterwards, like they were shaking in the car, and then they were like, where are we now? What's the score? Limerick are ahead by 5. It just gives them that moment to breathe. You know, someone might have to tell them because they could be jumping around the place, but you have to give the score at that point. So that's just 2 examples of how the atmosphere and the pitch of your voice can change depending on the occasion. So I think there's another one in a second now. Fergie, I'll talk to you as well.
Of the around the V here, Kieran, there's 2 army helicopters flying over us with a giant Irish flag blowing down towards the Hill 16. Quite the sight, it must be said, as it flies overhead us. Limerick in a huddle, Waterford in a huddle, both sides set to go. Referee thinking about giving a free, doesn't give it. Tom Morrissey away on the left-hand side. Have we got the first score? We have got the first score from Tom Morrissey. Kyle Hayes flicks it on towards Cian Lynch. Cian Lynch manages to do a nutmeg back in towards Cian Lynch. Surely the first goal chance here. Cian Lynch says Kyle Hayes on his left-hand side. Kyle Hayes! Oh, what a save! Batted back inside. Another save by O'Keefe. Brilliant double save for him. Back out towards Darrow Donovan. Half shot. Blocked again. Oh my word, Stephen O'Keefe, you have earned your crust today. Here comes the sharp puck out to Barry Nash. Foot inside the 21, gets away with it. William O'Donoghue moves back for the option. Now Declan Hannon. One going on his left, one going on his right. The one on his left is Kyle Hayes. He's still coming across the 40 is Kyle Hayes. Still going, 3 water from in around him. Kyle Hayes strikes it off the left-hand side. My word, Kyle Hayes on the run. Poetry in motion, 10 points to 4.
Yeah, they scored again. Nicky Quaid, nice and simple, to Barry Nash, to Declan Hannon, to Kyle Hayes, and outstanding score.
There is Lahoum and Limerick 3 points in front. Kieran, your initial reaction to the opening 38 minutes?
Overall, very, very impressed with Limerick. Went about their business. Very good. 14 points in the first half. Top class. Work rate, very good. Savage out of our forwards. The way we've hurled there in the first half, we deserve to be up about 10 points.
Gerard Hegarty assists a chance at a goal. He goes over the bar for Gerard Hegarty on the run. Another score, 4 points from him. Limerick watering 19-12.
It's now the ruthless streak. I'd imagine John Kiley would be saying to the boys, now is the time to harbour freedom, and the game is in your hands. Just, put them away and enjoy the rest of the experience.
Across towards that, Dan Morrissey, who comes out covering for Mike Casey.
Super.
The final whistle is gone, and Limerick have won the Liam McCarthy Cup 2020 All-Ireland champions as the full and rightly extended panel trod onto the pitch. What a performance. That is as professional a performance as it gets. Magical to watch. Limerick, the All-Ireland champions for the second time in 3 seasons. Breathe it in.
Okay, so the reason I picked that one out, I suppose people are probably aware looking at the picture, is that was a 2020 final. There was no one there. So there's no crowd noise, nothing in the background. You have to create your own atmosphere, and you can look at that picture at the very top of that stand. There's those kind of yellow blocks of seating. That's where we're sitting. The reason I shared that is, like, you're going to go into certain situations in radio where you're talking and everyone can hear you. So I met a Limerick hurler 2 days later, and he was saying that I could hear every word you said, everything. He said I was taking a free at one stage, and I could hear you shouting about how I'd missed one of the frees. But I can't let that into your head. You know, it's great on the days there are crowds there, but the first couple of gigs you're probably going to do, you could be above in a tin can stand in the middle of nowhere, commentating on a game, going, Fergal Quinn has missed 3 frees already, lads, and you'd wonder, are they going to leave him on the frees any longer here? Like, I mean, he's hobbling around the place there. He just doesn't look fit for purpose, and he can hear you, but you've got to project your voice out there. So, and again, someone sitting at home probably enjoyed the game, listened to it on radio. I know people were in. One guy sent me a lovely email from Central Park in New York. He went to New York, sat down in the Central Park and listened to us on the radio, and wasn't aware there was no crowd really in his head, because we produce what we produce. But do your job is a mantra I use all the time. My job there was to tell people what was happening. Everyone in the stadium could hear me. John Kiley could hear me on the sideline. Everyone. Don't be afraid of anyone hearing you. That's your job, just to talk. So I just wanted to share that clip. Now, I think there's one last clip here, and then obviously hopefully we can throw it open if anyone wants to talk. But the next clip, I'll leave it playing, I'll explain after.
Kieran, there's 2 army helicopters flying over us with a giant...
Sorry. This one, right, Don?
Last one.
Flanagan coming along the end line, looked like a puck across the top of the head. Hit towards Keane Lynch on the 14-yard line. Surely another goal chance for Limerick. And Limerick get the goal they deserve for all their efforts so far. 26 minutes on the clock. Limerick won 12, 14 points. A free already down and it's going to curl. I'm curling my right shoulder trying to get it to go over the bar. And out we come with the Hawkeye.
That's away, Hawkeye, straight over the net. Great score by Dowling, and I tell you, he's made a great impact since coming on.
I don't think this is the time to tell Tom they're getting the Hawkeye's a computer, and you can't tell it to go away.
We're all getting that here.
Here, Casey's out on the far side. He's too far out. He'll pass it back out towards Aaron Gillane. Can he get run the possession? He can. Looks like he's fouled. Gillane has loads of time. Gillane lifts his straight on. Over the right. 6 in a row for the men from the Shannon side. It's 126 to 126. What a game of hurling. What a game, full stop.
All I can see is the place has gone green and white. It's time we drive it on now. Great catch.
126 to 126. Cork on the attack on the far side. Cork with enough frame trying to make it in towards goal. That pass off here towards full forward.
What a save.
Nicky Quaid takes it off the hand of Seamus Hannity. He blows the final whistle. And it's 127 to 127. The pharmacist. Some medicine in this if he puts it in. 130 to 129. Shane Dowling lifts this and strikes this. Has to strike it before it hits the 21. Strikes it down! And Shane Dowling leaves the hill 16 with the fist pump. And Cool was up on the scoreboard.
What an impact, Dowling! He had the balls to go for it. By God, did he stick it?
Pat Ryan down to down, all the way across the far side of the ball made outside the CBS. Pat Ryan in line, and then he's mad as he has to pick it up. Pat Ryan has his fish in there for goes towards the net. Pat Ryan! Goal for the red, Pat Ryan! He wants the referee pulling the way across the final whistle. Limerick are in the All-Ireland final on August 19th. Limerick 332, Cork 231.
Yeah, so that's one of the more bonkers ones. Limerick versus Cork 2018 All-Ireland semi-final. I just wanted to play that one again. It's very similar, I suppose, to the Kyle Hayes one with Donn O'Sullivan as the co-commentator. But this is more so about technique than anything. Yes, we were going crazy. Yes, we were excited. But the scores were in there. The scene setting was in there. You could have turned off the radio there at the final whistle because I told you when the All-Ireland final was on, I told you what the score was. And it was over. So just again, a prime example of get excited, have a bit of fun, have a laugh. Just nail those markers of the score, the time, what's coming next. So anyone listening to that roaring and shouting would instantly be thinking, when's the All-Ireland final, when's the All-Ireland final? And you say Sunday the 19th of August. You have to have it in there. Excuse me for context. So that's it really, and they're the examples, and hopefully someone might have picked one or two positive things out of that. But the most important thing I would stress there is it is great fun. If you're thinking of doing it, it is brilliant crack, and you do end up in some random places around the country, but it's absolutely worth every second of it. And if you have an interest in sport or radio, I would advise doing it. That's my formal part over, Ferg.
Thanks very much for that, Don. Some great examples there. I thought the young fella was going to come into the room there. He could hear some stuff going on, thinking there was a game on somewhere. Okay, so can I put it to the floor then? I'll just stop spotlighting Don. We'll democratize the room a little bit. If you could turn on the cameras, folks, it would be helpful. I see if you have them on. But any questions? Got a couple myself. If got a few budding sports.
I'll chip in.
Dara, yeah.
I suppose radio just generally more manic than television commentary. Like I don't know, do you know Willie Hegarty's my sort of local for Shannon's side, and you wouldn't know half the time what's happening. It just seems like you nearly have to talk faster on radio. Does that just come naturally because people actually can't see the game?
Yeah, so say what you see there. That Shane Dowling one, he scored a goal. I was saying that he was giving the fist pump. Cool was on the big screen. You have to describe things. So the tip I always say about radio is imagine everyone listening to is blind. That they're not in the ground, they're not watching on television. They don't understand or hear anything. Now, you can get very quick, but again, don't go to 6. Don't go very fast or very high all the time. And I know some commentators do, and it's a bugbear of mine. So I'm not saying anything about your local guy, but you know, people can get very excited about the first score of the game or the second score of the game. Like, chill out, like there's a long way to go here. Hurling is the fastest field game in the world. You have to try and keep up, essentially. I didn't share with you how I keep scoring hurling matches because no one can read it, you know, at all. It's just carnage. You just strap yourself in and hope for the best. It's all squiggles and whatever. But yeah, control your voice is what I would say to you, and let people know. So if you take the Gaelic football would be easier, but for hurling, if the ball's in the middle of the field, nice and easy. It's in the middle. It's in between the two parties. Where's the ball? And then someone will have a shot at goal. If it starts to drop in towards the edge of the square, go 3, 4, 5, goal 6. And then the goalkeeper will poke it out at 1, 2, 3. So yeah, you do have to talk an awful lot more for radio than TV because people can't see. TV is another skill. It's nice and slow and informative. But for radio, some people get carried away very early, way too soon. Just again, what did I say? Relax, have fun, breathe. And if you have a co-commentator, all the better. Let them get excited, and you can feed back in and control it. You know, like Kyle Hayes going up the wing there and scoring a goal, a wonder goal we're never going to see again. That's the time to go mad, not a point in a county junior B minor final. You know.
And again, I suppose the clips there don't really give the sense of you're kind of building up to that. You might be listening to that going, Jesus, O'Sullivan goes cracked all the time, but like they're the peaks, aren't they, Don, of the you know, those particular games.
Yeah, so an inter-county hurling match, you would just, as I said there, strap yourself in. But for radio, for rugby, I would have a list of topics that maybe I might want to talk to the co-commentator about. That, for argument's sake, Munster Connacht, a couple of Munster lads. Why did they leave Munster and go to Connacht? The Ireland squad has been named next week. Fixtures have been announced for this. AIL results from this afternoon, because you've so much dead time to fill with rugby. Whereas for that inter-county hurling match, they're really enjoyable to do and really easy to do. But like for your hard grind, like your soccer or your rugby, it's a difficult skill because you're filling time and describing stuff. So if you were to tune in to me on a Friday night with a Munster match, and you had a cup of coffee, you could be forgiven for falling asleep on the couch, because there could be large parts of it that are really 1-2. But if you have a bit of crack with your co-commentator and chat, just get into a good kind of a vibe. Let people, imagine someone on the couch at home going, I want to leave this guy on, he's got a nice voice in the background. Or I want to leave, this couple on the radio, they're nice to listen to. That's what you want. And that's the kind of feedback we get from people going, really enjoyed it, And the other thing is, if you're in a stand and, as I say, describe the scene, if it's absolutely lashing out of the heavens, or we did a match one St. Patrick's Day, it was snowing in Croke Park. And I was just, every couple of minutes, I was like, lads, if you're at home and you're near the kettle, will you just have a cup of tea for us? We're frozen, If you're by the fire, I'm delighted for you. I'd much rather be by the fire now than here, but we're here and we're going to tell you what's going on. So those little things would keep people engaged. Just don't go mad all the time.
Svetlana, I know we have a cricket fan in the room, Donn. How does the commentary, the hurling, cricket commentary presumably would be a lot slower?
Yeah, so my dream is to do baseball. I'd love to do baseball commentary, and I love the cricket. I love watching cricket, and the cricket is like that. So the cricket would be, imagine sitting on a veranda in a warm Caribbean country with a nice jug of iced tea. They just have the chats and they have a bit of fun, but they have their detail nailed. And when a guy's running up to bowl that ball, they know what his bowling technique is, what his bowling stats are, and good shot. But they just leave the images breathe. The hardest job in sport, they say, is cricket commentary on the radio. BBC do a massive job of that, but just describe what's going on. You can find yourself looking out the window and describing the colour of a car. I'd often see, I was doing a commentary one day, there was nothing happening. There was a kid running down to get ice cream, and the ice cream guy hadn't seen him. And then we started doing a commentary, and the young fella was trying to run after the ice cream guy, and people were like, "Oh, that was a good little bit of detail." That's what the cricket and the baseball do. Yeah, it's brilliant technique for them to do it. Such a tough sport too.
Brilliant. We have Nicholas on the chat. He apologises, he can't turn on the camera, or his mic is out. So he's just two questions, Donn. First of all, what's the most difficult for a radio sports commentator? Is it being enthusiastic or describing precisely what's happening?
Oh, that's a great question. If you're not enthusiastic about it, I'd say you're in the wrong job. That's the first thing. So I would say describing what's exactly happening is harder. I think the enthusiasm, you wouldn't be there. I don't know if anyone on this call is a League of Ireland fan. People say, God, League of Ireland, what would you be doing in the showgrounds on a Friday night in the dark? You're there because you love it and it's really enjoyable. So the hardest question there would be describing it in detail, what not to leave out, what to leave out. So I think for any sport, I think we're talking about cricket or baseball or Gaelic football or whatever, is that detail is key. As much detail as possible, because people can't see or people can't hear you.
Nicholas had a second question there about which you prefer. Do you prefer to commentate on your own or the co-commentator? I think you have answered that early on about the relationship with the co-commentator. They serve a purpose, but they can create difficulties sometimes.
Yeah, it depends. I do an awful lot of what they call off-tube commentaries for rugby, which is just me in a room commentating on a game my own. And it's only for a highlight package, so they cut up. That's good. I do love having a co-commentator. It's good. It depends on the co-commentator. Some are good, some are better than others. But on All-Ireland final day, just this year, 2021, we had two co-commentators. So you're kind of a lead of bringing those people in and out, which I enjoy. I like that. It's very American style, or a cricket style, even with the baseball as well. There's multiple commentators in the room and you're bringing them in and out and you're having a chat with them. I like that. So the co-commentator is great. If the co-commentator starts jumping across you an awful lot, there has been known for an elbow to be thrown a couple of feet or an arm out like this saying "shut up." Or another thing I meant to say is a big marker where you write down "shut up" on a big A4 sheet and hold it up like this, and they go, "Oh yeah, sorry," because again, you're there to draw the lines, they're there to colour it in, but sometimes they go a bit mad and start telling them about scores and get names wrong and stuff.
So kind of controlling the co-commentator part of the job.
Exactly.
Anyone else want to come in with questions there? Donn, I presume you've never had to do any kind of live spieling over, Eurovision or any kind of news type commentary, or have you had experience in that regard? Paddy's Day parades or anything like that?
No, that's for way more educated and well-versed people than me. I'm merely a sports guy who shouts out what fellas are wearing. No, I haven't, but the scene setting for sport at the start and at the end of every game is kind of like that pre-scripted stuff, setting the scene. So, I mean, would I like to, be on Grafton Street in Dublin on St. Patrick's Day going, and here's the 35th Scout Troop from Dundalk? No, because I don't have a passion for it. But you do have to have your details. So you need to know all the names of the floats, or our next big probably gig with the Limerick Leader will be the next general election. It'll be way more video orientated than it ever was. Will I have my little pin pictures of all the politicians that are potentially running? Absolutely. Will I know high up or low down who they are? 100%. That just goes with the preparation. That'll be our next big thing in that sense for you. Everything is about preparation. I mean, I think my very last slide, by the way, there, lads, was, it doesn't matter if Fergus fine, was be so good they can't ignore you. So that's my mantra for life. Just everything you do is just be the best you can be, so they can't give the job to someone else. So you're on the radio and you're doing your radio bit, and they go, "Geez, who do we get to host that show?" Well, it has to be Fergal. It has to, sure, he's the best. Like, I did commentary for rugby, and it was like Ulster versus Cast, and the producer after said in my ear, "God, I really enjoyed that game." And he's the guy who picks the next one. Then you get the next, and I did live Six Nations. So only a couple of people have done that. RT Go the same, did RT Go this summer. Guy rang me afterwards. He's like, "Brilliant, can you do more?" Like, it was Wicklow and Wexford. I was getting excited as if it was the greatest match in the history of the world. But I just wanted to be so good at that very game that when the decision was made for the next marking, you're going to get it. So you have to be. That's the mentality I have anyway. I'm maybe a bit too competitive. I fight at Monopoly, but the big thing is just to be the best you can be at anything you do, and they can't ignore you. They can't. If you're the best, they won't ignore you. Jobs will come for you, and you'll get your breaks. If you're middle of the road and you're kind of phoning it in at one or two things, I give an example. That semi-final commentary in 2018 is how I got my break with Virgin. A producer in Virgin heard it, thought it was very good, asked me to do a trial. So when I was doing the trial, be the best you can be, pass the trial, get the gig. So I think there's a few people on here who've been on radio. They appreciate that. You just nail it as best you can, and they can't but ask you to come back.
On a not unrelated topic there, Fiona's on the chat there, Donn. What's the best thing to do when there's a big fight in the middle of a game? Do you describe what's happening?
Yeah, so describe it to the point where there's a fight, right? I always go the first kind of shemazel, or the first kind of ruckus. Or I describe it in rugby as they're testing the fabric of each other's collars. Do you know the way they all just pull at each other's collars these days? No one has thrown a punch since the 1970s. But but if someone throws a dig, and particularly in hurling now, whatever in your county, in Limerick, like if fella runs in and starts clattering fellas, don't go, "Oh, here comes Donn O'Sullivan, leathering fellas left, right and centre." You don't want that. That's just naming names and get in trouble for that kind of carry on. But just go, "Look, it's getting hot and heavy here. Like, there's a big fight going on below us. There's one, start counting. There's 2, there's 4, there's 6, there's now 10 involved, there's 4 involved, there's only 2 players not involved." Describe what's going on. Just go, "Look, there's a big fight." But absolutely, I mean, if I was sitting in the car and there was a fight in a GA match, I'm like, "Oh, I'm listening to the next 5 minutes of this one. It's going to get hot and heavy." So yeah, describe it 100%, Fiona.
We've got Angel, who's from Mexico on the course. He's not on camera, but there's just a question in there. He wants to know: is there soccer on the radio in Ireland, or is it only football and hurling?
No, there's soccer on the radio. Yeah. I can't think of man's name, Marty, who does all the Ireland soccer matches. We don't get as excited about soccer on radio here as they do in Mexico. I'd love to be able to do what they do and go off and shout the big long goal for every goal. And I think some of them actually do a kind of a Morse code noise as well. I know that's in Brazil for some of the goals, which is just fantastic. It's brilliant to hear, like they get excited about it. But yeah, we do have soccer on the radio, but not as exciting. My colleague for Live 95, actually, Mike Ahern, is worth to follow on Twitter. He's one of the most excitable soccer commentators locally for Live 95. Treaty United are the team, they're in the playoffs, and they're looking for supporters, so we'll take anyone we can get.
It's funny, isn't it? Soccer on the radio is it's almost gone through a funny stage. I mean, the height of Today FM was fairly hardcore soccer radio commentary on a Saturday afternoon. I don't know if there's is just the move to TV so complete there, or what's any comment to make on that, Don? Because it actually touches on something quite interesting.
Yeah, so the rights holders at the moment are Sunday afternoon with News Talk, where they did Man United Liverpool on Sunday. So there's a market there for it as part of a sports show. I think Today FM stopped their sports show. Now they're all part of the one umbrella, obviously, in the one house, Marconi House in Dublin. But yeah, the Live 95 with TalkSport do a load of online Premier League commentary. So you can listen to soccer online. I know a lot of the Liverpool TV, Man United TV do live radio commentaries on their channels because they can't obviously show the games live. So there's a market there for it. Soccer is a difficult one. 90 minutes and something mightn't happen. There might be no score. I mean, that is a tough slog. But again, if you've got a good co-com, you can have a good chat. There's some brilliant commentators out there. I used to listen to them, show my age here now. BBC Radio 5 Live used to do live commentary for Liverpool matches when I was growing up, and they used to have two commentators, one for the first 23 minutes, then another guy would come on to take you home to half time. He'd start the second half, and then another guy would take you home for the 98 minutes. So there's two commentators. Brian Green, I think, was one of them. But yeah, the crackly radio back in the day when we didn't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Nearly the style now is the lads on telly switching between several games at the same time. So it's kind of just switching, with highlights and things like that. Okay, can we have a last question there before we wrap up for today? Anyone else want to come in?
I might jump in there, Fergal, if it's okay. All right. Hi, Don. How's it going?
How are we doing? Are you good?
Not a bother. I suppose I wanted to kind of ask, just from even my own perspective, even listening to matches or going to matches, like obviously you're going to be in favour of someone. Do you ever find it difficult to give, say, equal coverage to what you're commentating on?
Yeah, brilliant question. So it depends on who you're doing it for. So you're doing it for Live 95 local radio. They want you to be Limerick focused because everyone that's listening is Limerick. They're only on your state. See, the matches on RTE as well, so a neutral can go and listen to them with Pádraig Lodge and John Milan, whereas they're coming to us for Limerick. On Munster Rugby, I'm very down the middle, I think, because there's a lot of people listening that might not be from Limerick, or if I'm doing a commentary for TV with two different nations, you just commentate straight back. You're creating understanding, saying what you see, away you go. If you're on a local radio station, they want you to be biased towards the local team. If you are lucky enough to do a match for national, or you're impartial, and commenting. I do some rugby games. I did Connacht and Leicester last year, and I was getting carried away with myself. I just thought it was a great game. Leicester scored a try. I thought they were brilliant, and Connacht scored a try, and I thought they were even more brilliant. So yeah, it depends on where you are, Tara, what audience you're pitching yourself to.
Thank you. That's great. And I suppose just the last little bit, how do you stay so excited and enthusiastic throughout the whole game? Do you drink a lot of coffee, or is that just your personality?
Both. Yeah, both. I don't drink. I don't smoke. So coffee is my drug. I love coffee. But no, again, passion. Love it. Absolute love. I mean, the All-Ireland final this year, it was the first time there was a parade back since COVID, and the band were there. And I actually got a bit excited. I got too excited. I was really emotional for some reason. I suppose with the whole COVID, I mean, locked away, and then I was doing matches with no one in the crowd. Just when the band strike, my favourite part of sport is when the band strike up the snare drum at the back of a GA match. You hear it across all the country, just give it a little rattle, and away we go. I love that. The hair would rise up at the back of your neck, whatever. And I just thought, this is amazing. And if you're doing something, whatever it is, and you think this is amazing, you're going to be excited. for the next 2 hours, and then Limerick went on and win. So I mean, how could you not? But if you're covering something and you're excited about it and you love it, yeah, you're going to find enjoyment in it. Yeah, whether it be politics or news, whatever. I'm the editor of a paper. I get excited about Limerick Hurlers or Liverpool Football Club or whatever I support, and the lads here love a good, hard news story, and they all get excited, and I'm kind of looking at them going, Jesus, lads, it's only news, they're relaxed a small bit. But I would be the same about sports, so I have to bow to their excitement.
Hi, Donn.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. My name's Angel. I've been working on the radio for many, many years. I actually started, my first job was commentating on TV, a live soccer game, professional soccer game in Mexico. I've been doing that for quite a while. I did it for most of the time through the radio. I only did it on TV for a couple of years. And my question to you is, how has the radio industry coped with the new platforms now available, to just watch a game? Because in Mexico, there are more, I'm guessing it's the same here, but there are more and more platforms every day to, just being able to watch a soccer game. Soccer is the main sport in Mexico. And it's not like before, in which you had to be in front of your TV to watch a game, right? You can now just watch it on your phone, watch it on your tablet, watch it on your computer, whatever. And that has decreased the number of, listeners for a match on the radio. And it's been a challenge since, all these new platforms have arrived. Is that the case in Ireland as well? Or how is the radio industry when it comes specifically to broadcasting matches of any kind of sport dealing with that?
That's a good question. So from my own experience, how radio has changed here is that radio has become very analytical, very descriptive. I know a lot of people will turn down the television and put on us on the radio on Alexa. An awful lot of people do that. Purely because, and I would refer to Sunday's match, Liverpool Manchester United, it gets to a point where Martin Tyler and Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher are just talking about what's going to happen to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer after the game. There was no actual commentary on what was happening in the last half an hour of the match, what was actually physically happening. Whereas if you were listening to that on the radio, they'd still tell you, Liverpool just tapping the ball around. Jordan Henderson's got this touch, that touch. So a lot of people would say that to us, that, the TV might drift off and, allow you to watch it. Whereas we'll analyse what's happening, why it's happening. And in particular, I know you touched earlier, is there football on radio. For our own games, Gaelic games, hurling and football, the tactics of that has gone to such a point now where people are obsessed with it. So for the Limerick Hurlers, Paul Cadurk is the coach. They'll turn on the radio and go, why are Limerick doing this? Why has Aaron Gillane got 6 points? Why is Kyle Hayes after scoring that goal? Right. You don't get that on TV. They just keep showing the replay, and some fellow will go, no disrespect, but I don't like the TV commentary. Go, your man got a bit of a flick here and a bit of a flick there, and he fell over and he got up. It's not detailed enough for me. I think the radio have adapted well to that with more detail, because they're describing it better than any TV commentator is, I think.
Another question before we go, if I may.
Sure. Okay.
There's a new style of commentating in Mexico. It's not new, really. It's been on for about maybe 10, 15 years. And it's very, very controversial because these new guys that started implementing this, they're very, very famous. They're the top commentators on TV for soccer, both the Mexican League and the national team in Mexico. They started making fun of players when they missed clear chances and stuff. They started joking around during their commentary, during their live commentary on games. And it's been very controversial, but people seem to like it. Is that something that would be able to happen here? Is that something that people would allow here, or is that totally incorrect under the perception of Irish people?
Oh no, absolutely under no circumstances. Well, our two main sports are amateur, so who am I to slag off any amateur who wants to go and do what he's doing? Number one is those who can't. They say here, Angel, those who can't play train teams, and those who can train commentate. That's the way I would put it. So who am I to slag off a guy who misses an open goal? But to be honest with you, on local radio, maybe national, they wouldn't slag them off. A lot of professional sport, but locally, if I was to say something negative about a player, more than likely his brother, his uncle, his aunt, his mother are actually listening to me. So that's not that's not a good way to go. We have had instances where people would text us saying, my brother is playing today and I'm in, I think one guy was Koh Samui, another guy was in Penang or somewhere, listening in, and their brother was playing in the county final. I'm not going to slag his brother off for missing a goal. I'll just say he'll be disappointed with that, or he wishes he did better. But no, who am I to slag him off? They're better than me. They're out there.
I wonder though, even as he says this, Angel, as he Donn being Donn, I'd say he's taken a note under the table there, going, "Oh, is this something we could look into? It could be a." Who knows? There could be like the streamers or Twitch. This kind of like, it's like literally commentating while playing video games. Yeah, who knows, Donn? It could be the next thing. And Donn could be saying, "I'm not going there. I'm not going there with these young lads."
It could be. Anyone that's seen me play Grand Theft Auto doesn't need to commentate on it either. It's an old man who should know better.
Interesting to see where the next step will be. But anyway, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. We've gone a little bit over time. Thank you so much for your time as ever, Donn. That was really interesting. There's loads there, and it's so rare to get that a journalist will really peel back the curtain and show you the nuts and bolts, that you just don't know. As Donn said, if only he'd had this insight 20 years ago when he got started, just the nuts and bolts. So we really appreciate you doing that, Donn. It's actually quite a generous thing to do. Thank you so much for your time, Donn, as ever, and thanks everyone for coming and for your excellent questions and engagement today. We'll see you all next week mainly, right? They're all on reading week, Donn. So
I'll go away and read, lads. Really, for God's sake, don't be listening to me. God Almighty. I love a reading week. My job is reading. Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, Donn. Much appreciated. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.